Welcome to Airway Breathing Conversation, hosted and presented by the anesthesiology residents at the University of Saskatchewan. This podcast was created with the goal of providing individuals of all levels of medical knowledge with anesthesiology-related healthcare information. On this episode, we return to our conversation about our anesthesiology residency program here at the University of Saskatchewan. Guests include second-year anesthesiology resident Dr. Anne-Marie Friesen and our always engaging staff anesthesiologist, Dr. Henry B. Be sure to watch the episode before this for more tips and insider knowledge about the incredible things our program has to offer. Please note that while this podcast is run by healthcare professionals, it is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing beats care that is individualized to your own unique medical needs. So if you have any questions about content covered in this podcast that relates to your own health, please speak with your doctor today. Now, whether you're an anesthesiologist, resident, medical student, or member of the general public, come take a break with our host, Anesthesia PGY3 Alex Pellerin, and a multitude of brilliant and insightful guests as we demystify the incredible specialty that is anesthesiology, one episode at a time.
So we are very lucky because Anne-Marie, one of the second-year residents, has also now joined us. We asked her or told her to come late because you're pre-call, because you're going to be starting call in like half an hour. So thank you for joining us. And Anne-Marie is from Ottawa.
Yes.
So you can provide a good perspective for maybe people who are coming farther east about what they can expect about moving to Saskatoon.
Definitely. I think one thing that definitely helped in this like post-COVID, COVID era type of ordeal is, I'm not sure how it works in other universities or other programs, but we have a pretty good like mentorship program. So we're assigned, I think like in the first week that we match like a junior resident and a senior resident, which made it, I think, a lot easier coming. Like I had been to Saskatoon before. But, you know.
Like for elective or for?
No, just like in general. So my dad's family is originally from here. So like, you know, I had flown in, but I hadn't really like explored anywhere. So like kind of like to figure out where to live and what made sense, especially since we have like 3 sites, right? So kind of like what logistically makes sense, what areas to kind of like avoid, and yeah, what to kind of like look for and just to have like someone on the ground. I remember since it was like COVID era when Kim and I matched, someone even offered to kind of like go visit apartments for me anyways. I found that super helpful. I didn't take that offer, but it ended up working out okay. And another thing I really liked about Saskatoon is that life is actually like affordable. So I didn't have to kind of like pre-plan if I'm going to get into that much more debt in residency. And actually, my partner and I like bought a house here. So yay, adulting.
Yes. For all your dogs too.
Oh, indeed, for all my dogs. And I don't know if you can see, but my scrub cap is, I think this is the dog paw
dog
one.
print,
Yes, okay. Or cat paw one, whichever.
It's definitely a dog paw. But.
Yes. But yes, I don't know if you guys talked about this already, but we're a very, I guess, animal-oriented program.
Yes.
They're like basically our children. I think we have like this ongoing debate, and I think we had it at CARMS last year of like cats versus dogs.
Yes.
I'm definitely, well, I had a cat prior to, but I'm definitely more dog oriented. I think we're at 3 right now. Yes.
How many dogs do I have at home again? I just don't really remember because there's so many dogs.
There's so many great places to like walk your dogs in town too.
There is.
That too.
Yeah.
That too, for sure.
Yeah. And because your partner is a dog trainer.
Does definitely help. And I think that's part of your pre-call ritual too, also to walk your dog, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Because I was like, I should take that habit too.
Yes.
Get outside,
get some fresh air.
And you know, like even if you guys look at the weather network or whatever, and it says -40, it's still tolerable.
Yes, if you dress appropriately.
For sure. Been there, done that, still doing it. Mind you, right now, like as we're recording, I think it's like -10, which is like basically
so nice
short weather.
Yeah.
And it looks like everything's melting, but yeah. So that was definitely like a good thing about our program. And I think we're a pretty tight knit, I think, group. We have a lot of like common interests, which I found out coming here, especially when it comes like the whole animal world. A couple of residents in our cohort are actually, we have like similar backgrounds, which was really interesting. Like I think our cohort, Kim, Gemma, and I were our two girls. We're split like we were when we entered our one half and half. We're all kind of like nurses prior to, which makes it like interesting. Erin was a paramedic also. So we have quite a variety of like students and residents and their backgrounds, which I think is one of the strengths of our programs. But we do all have like connecting like qualities and stuff we like to do for sure, and interests.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I was also a nurse before. Don't want to say that I like started the trend for the R2s or anything. No, I'm just kidding. There was obviously other nurses, I think, before me. And we have some staff people who also were nurses as well, or pharmacists.
Yes.
Which is really great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quite a good background.
Yeah. Awesome. And how did you find just like moving from a bigger city to the size that Saskatoon is?
That's a good question.
So we're sort of like a mid city. Like
we're not a small town.
We're not small. Yeah. We have all the stuff you want.
Yeah. I'm trying to think like compared to the other programs, like what we could compare ourselves to. But coming from a big city into a smaller one, overall, it's been okay. It's actually interesting because last Christmas, not the one that just passed, but the one before, I went back to Ottawa and doing the regular commute that I usually did.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I was like taken aback and saying, like, was I doing this all the time, every day? But it's really nice to have like the bigger city, but like small town vibes, if I may say. It's nice to be able to get around within like a reasonable time anywhere in the city.
Yeah.
Traffic,
end to end, 20 minutes, right?
20 minutes is considered like a long commute in Saskatoon.
Yeah, in Saskatoon, yeah.
And like traffic is a non-issue, so you don't have to, and that's something we used to do like in Ottawa, is like base our activities and our displacements according to how traffic was, which seems like a little surreal right now.
And probably same in Edmonton too, right?
Well, and Calgary. I found Calgary, if I wanted to go anywhere, I knew it was going to be roughly an hour to get anywhere to do anything. And when I first moved to Saskatoon, I was like, oh man, these people drive really slow. And I found myself getting really frustrated by how slow everybody drives. And then I very quickly realized it's because it only takes you 10 minutes to get anywhere you want to get.
Yeah.
That you're not driving like a crazy person trying to get through traffic and weave in and out. It's much more relaxed.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's one thing of moving from like, I'll say a bigger city to a smaller metropolitan, if I can even call it that, was some of the things that if your daily life or daily routine that kind of you don't need to think about, which was really, really nice. And I've found that also moving here, I've been able to build kind of like rapport with a lot of people. So sometimes I'll go to like the coffee shop and some people will recognize me, or I recently bought furniture and the people are super like amicable and super helpful. And yeah, you know so-and-so and so-and-so knows so-and-so and they'll do you a favor. And I've found really, really nice. So I've been able to kind of like integrate myself in Saskatoon to a certain extent and not feel like a total outsider. And it's funny because I was having this conversation in my head the other day of like, so if someone asks me where I'm from, what do I say now? Because I identify as someone who lives in Saskatoon right now, especially when you go back to like your hometown. But then when I'm here, I say I'm from so-and-so. So anyways, but I was like, I think I feel like I belong in Saskatoon. I feel like I have a spot here.
Yeah.
So that's been really nice.
I think it's very easy to feel at home here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have also lived in a big city. I lived in Vancouver for a year. And like, it's just very easy to feel disconnected from people in centers like that. Whereas here, you really have like a community of people. And like you said, there's so many connections between people. And I mean, being able to get up at 6:10 and leave the door at 6:30 and be at work within 10 minutes, you can't beat that.
That's really nice.
Yeah. and have parking. We do get parking at all the sites
Yes.
that we work at. So that's also very nice.
I mean, yeah, I would say the plowing could use a bit of work, but it's better than it was when we had that huge snowfall.
Yeah, we did have a huge snow dump this year, which is not like, it's not like that every year.
Is what I've been
Right.
told.
Yeah.
It's what I've been told.
The winters are very variable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's like climate change in general. But yes, I
Yes.
heard that there were a couple like of staff who have like trucks and who are pulling people out of the ditch during like their holiday season. I was like, oh, those are
they're
such
so
nice,
nice here.
people.
Yeah, people are really nice
Everyone's
here.
so nice.
Yes.
Everybody helps out.
And the time I got stuck, like I had 6 neighbors whom, like, you know, I've seen from a distance, but not really interacted with. They all came and helped me and like pushed me out of I don't know where I was stuck, probably a snowbank,
Yeah.
which was kind of like sad. But yeah, so I think people in Saskatoon are definitely friendly. So moving here has been decent. It's always scary at first. It's a new environment. You're wrapping your head around like so many things and what is the culture here? How do we do things? But overall, like R1, I found like very steep learning curve, but I think R2 is like getting better. And I'm like finally like establishing like more connections, not just like in the hospital, but like outside, and really kind of like, I guess, finding a bit more my person and what I do like outside of work, if that's fair.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And what is your favorite part about our program?
Oh, there are many, many parts. Let me think. I personally really like that we don't have that many fellows, if any.
I guess we have none.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I like that also we're kind of, okay, I'll start with that branch. And then there's another aspect that I like. I like that we have a lot of people that go out for fellowships and that bring knowledge back. I think this makes like our
Absolutely.
program really rich, and it'll teach me like one-on-one, which I really love. But I also love that we don't have that many fellows. We're a decent sized program, and we have like a decent amount of things that roll in through our door. Like I think I remember on my trauma rotation being like, whoa, this happens here? This type of stuff happens here? It was quite interesting.
We have a lot of traumas. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I wasn't expecting that at all. But anyways. And yeah, we get to be like a lot of hands-on. And there's not much like, I don't like the word fighting, but kind of like competition for like big cases and stuff. And people are very open to making your learning or catering like kind of like your room or whatever you want to do to your learning and your goals. So let's say you want a bit more exposure to something. It's very easy to reach out and say, hey, can I like follow you or something, or do this case with you, or blah, blah, blah. And I've also had staff that, let's say like I did a consult for something and they're like, oh, I saw that your patient you did the consult on is actually having surgery on this day. Do you want to like follow up and do like the surgery? And I'm like, that is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels
Yeah.
like people are really involved in your learning. And yeah, I feel like I've gotten a lot more out of it, if that's fair. That's probably my favorite aspect of the program. The other thing I really like is I find our staff like really, really, really nice.
Mm-hmm.
We have exceptionally nice
Yeah.
staff. Yeah.
Yes.
Here and in Regina and in PA.
Yeah.
Like, so any place you would want to go, people are
Mm-hmm.
exceptionally kind and very, very good teachers. I don't think that being a good teacher is easy.
No.
And a lot of people have invested a lot of time into becoming excellent teachers here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I find that the learning is a lot, a lot of the time like a conversation rather than didactic.
Yeah,
most
less
of the time.
than a
which-
grill sesh. It's not really a grill
You're not
sesh.
getting pimped the whole day in the OR.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I remember being like pre-Carms med student and like trying to put on like my best impression because I wanted to get into this specialty. And I'm like, man, that was stressful. Nowadays I can like go into the room. I know my staff has got my back. I'll say like what I want to work on. They'll either be okay with it or show me something else. And then we just kind of like go through the motions together.
I have to say, one of my favorite things also is when you say, I actually don't know. Then the staff are like, great, I get to teach you something. Like they're truly excited
Yeah.
Totally.
that they get to teach us something rather than, well, why don't you know? Did you not read about this? Have you not thought about it? Have
Yeah.
you not done the necessary work at home? They're just like, oh, that's so exciting. We have something really cool to talk about. I can't wait to teach this to you. Like
Yeah.
it's really supportive. And I never feel embarrassed to say I don't know. because it's just a great way to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say our program is the opposite of shame-based learning.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I've ever had anyone shame me in the OR for not knowing something.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
And even if like, sometimes I'll say, okay, I read about this and I'm not quite sure I understand fully. And then they'll be like totally open to have a conversation with me about it. Or like say, you know what? It's been so long that the finer details of this, probably not. But hey, we can definitely like talk it through. And then I've had like some staff kind of like sometimes if like we have had cancellations or something, kind of run through like scenarios with me just for like my own learning because I felt like something in pediatrics I wasn't super comfortable with. Yes, our adult people our staff are really nice. Our pediatric staff are also really, really, really nice.
Literally true golden angels. Yeah.
Yes.
They're very, very good teachers. Yeah. You learn so much on your pediatric anesthesia block. They're so supportive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely one of my favorite aspects of the program. Another thing I kind of like that I probably didn't take into account when I was like looking around at different programs for CARMs, which was that we do have a lot of longitudinal learning. You know, you start with like your OBS rotation, and then as you're doing call for R2 or your senior years, you get to build on like your epidural skills, and you keep obstetrics like in your back pocket. And then you also do like some pediatrics if you're really like interested, which I think I kind of like underestimated. And I'll say like regional. We don't have like a formal regional program as of yet or curriculum. Like it's part of our curriculum, but we don't have like a specific block for it. And you keep building on those. So I'm at City Hospital right now. I haven't done like adductor blocks for about a year, but I'm like, I remember what I struggled with last year. So let's see if I can build on this. So it's nice to add things because that's how it is sometimes in real life as a staff, I'm guessing. You don't do something for a while and then you come back to it and you have to like cue yourself and relearn, know what you know, and then kind of like go off that to see if you want to add. So yeah, that's another aspect that I kind of like really appreciate of our program.
Yeah. Longitudinal call is super key. Super key, I think.
For long-term learning, I think for sure.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, for sure. And it's really nice in R1 that you only do call at St. Paul's Hospital. So you're always one-on-one with a staff member. You don't go to any codes and traumas, and you don't, there's no requirement to do anything independently. So I think that's also a really nice way to like ease yourself into call. So when you are in second year and you start doing call at our major trauma center, you have like some of those really core foundational experiences of like doing an open AAA with a staff or like doing an emergency case on call at St. Paul's that really help you prepare and get ready for those experiences. Yeah.
There's been like probably 4 or 5 instances already early on when I was on call at St. Paul's where I would show up at 4 p.m. and one of the staff would tell me, oh, they're just starting this big case, Seb. Why don't you go and check it out? And you're sort of the first resident, you know, you're almost like the first assist or even running the case sometimes with the staff. They're sort of just supervising or making sure that everything's going well. But I think that's a very valuable part of the program where there's nobody ahead of you sort of working that case. You get to be the person working and learning through it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's really nice that you spend your first year really developing your psychomotor skills. So being able to start IVs on difficult patients, art lines, intubating, like you really get comfortable with those skills so that when you are solo, you feel confident in your ability to perform them.
Yeah, you're like, I've done this many, so I know that I can do it. Or I've done this many glide scope intubations.
Right.
And this person has no other difficult features and I feel comfortable. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, those are really big things that we have in our program. Perfect. Okay, so the next question that we'll talk about is how does USask prepare residents for the Royal College exam? So we've already talked about some of this, but we do our academic half days weekly, and then we have our full academic days once a month. And we review topics based on ACUDA objectives, so based on the Royal College objectives. Obviously, there's a bajillion Royal College objectives, so we try to focus on some of the main ones in our presentations. And then we already chatted about oral exam prep that we do. But I guess the most important thing is that you're sort of just learning all the way along and prepping all the way along. And then in fourth year is your dedicated and most intensive study year. And that's where there is a study program that different staff help you with and guide you and help you with regular exam prep. And then as a senior, you kind of focus your room with people who have maybe been Royal College examiners in the past so that they can ask you oral board questions kind of as you're getting closer to your oral exam date.
I think in your fourth year, your academic half day is different as well. Like they switch it so that you're doing your academic half day only with other fourth years and it's study prep time and it's part of that study program as opposed to joining sort of all of the residents in their academic half day because you're at a different level.
Yeah. And you've probably done that because our academic half day rotation is like a every 2 year thing. So you've probably seen most of the presentations. Yeah, absolutely. And they get an extra day as well. Like once you're into really intensive study mode, you have a dedicated time for studying outside of your clinical duties. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, let's talk about where we train and what sites we train at. So there are 4 major hospitals in Saskatoon. That includes St. Paul's Hospital, which is sort of in the core neighborhoods of Saskatoon, City Hospital, and then Royal University Hospital, which is attached to the University of Saskatchewan, and then the Jib Pattison's Children's Hospital, which is attached to RUH. So what kinds of services are offered at St. Paul's? Kim.
So at St. Paul's, they do a lot of vascular and ENT. Like that's where those specialties are based out of. So you can expect, that's where we start in R1 doing most of our anesthesia. And that's where we start doing our anesthesia calls. So you get lots of early exposure to vascular, thoracics, and ENT.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also the renal transplant site.
Oh, that's right. Yep. Yeah.
So definitely a place that you're going to be seeing and doing that. And then there's also critical care there. There is an ICU. And then there's also the opportunity to do pain rounds daily as well. And the palliative care ward is also there. So you can either do a palliative care rotation within residency, or you might be asked to see a consult there. And we got robots at St. Paul's now. Have you guys seen the robot room?
Robot.
Yeah.
Super
So we now have a robotic laparoscopic assisted surgery, which includes urology and gyne-onc at this point. Yeah. But I did see some of the thoracic surgeons on the trainer.
Yep.
So,
cool. Yeah.
They're coming.
It's going to be more and more popular, I think, in the years to come, which is cool. Lots of different anesthetic considerations, too, with those cases.
Yeah, with the robots. Yeah, that's why I think it's so great we have that, because I know lots of other bigger centers have robots, and the surgeons use like robots for their surgery. So I think that's really great that we have that experience here now. Okay, and what services are at City Hospital, Seb?
Yeah, so at City, there's a lot of gynae procedures as well as a lot of the hips, knees, sort of ortho procedures as well.
Yeah.
I believe there's a breast room that runs every day or almost every day.
Almost every day, yeah.
And then the occasional general surgery day, some of the minor general surgery cases as well as ophthalmology, but we don't really partake in the ophthalmology rooms early on. We get sort of hands-on experience with some of the other rooms. The City's a great way to get a lot of sort of quick snap cases in and out and sort of work on your hands-on skills a lot. And then, like we touched on earlier, the block room and getting lots of blocks done as well. So
yeah.
I think the other thing about City is that they generally try to take the healthier patients, so ASA classification 1s and 2s mostly. And there's some criteria about patients that can be done at City. So they generally are sort of quick, high turnover, lots of exposure cases.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
So I had 2 blocks at City early on this year, which was great. I thought it was awesome to work with sort of quick turnaround cases like you were mentioning. So lots of intubations, lots of IV starts, lots of spinals, which is a great way to just sort of improve your skills and sort of follow along that way.
Absolutely. And then our major trauma center is RUH. We have trauma, we have the coronary care unit, we have the ICU. Neuro and strokes are done here. So we have our endovascular suite as well for coiling. And then we have ortho and spine surgery as well as general surgery. So there's the ability to do like be a part of the trauma team while you're here when you do your trauma rotation. There's critical care, cardiac anesthesia. There's also the ability to assist with electroconvulsive therapy and providing anesthesia for those procedures, as well as pain rounds and consults. And then the Jim Patterson's Children's Hospital, kind of self-explanatory, but essentially all of like the peds surgery is done there, as well as PICU and obstetrics, so maternal procedures as well. The other thing and the other place that we can go to is Prairie View Surgical Center, which is a out-of-hospital day surgery procedures only, and focusing only on ASA 1 and 2 patients, but a great opportunity as well for residents to go to. And they do some plastics and reconstructive surgery, ortho day surgery procedures, dental surgery, peds dental. So kind of nice to get exposure to like healthy children, cataracts, and some ENT things. And there's also opportunities to go to other cities within Saskatchewan, including PA and Regina, which we'll talk about in a bit. But Dr. B came, which is one of our favorite staff anesthesiologists, I would say. Yeah, I would say
welcome,
that's
Dr. B.
a well-known thing amongst residents.
Sweet.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Thanks.
and Dr. B did his residency training here.
I did.
And now you live here and are a staff person here.
Yeah, I'll probably
And-
die here.
And your better half is also
Yeah.
a staff anesthesiologist here.
Yeah.
So what did you like about training in Saskatchewan, and what made you guys stay?
Yeah. So I think it was really good. I grew up in Saskatchewan, and so this feels like home to me. And a lot of people already know this, but I wanted to do general surgery for a long time when I think surgery is still really fantastic career choice for anybody. But
We saw the light.
saw the light.
Saw the
And
dark,
then
whatever.
I think the reason I wanted to do anesthesia, maybe also that's changed quite a bit, but probably the reason that attracted me to this particular department hasn't really changed. And one of that is just I felt that the people here were more cohesive and felt like a family as opposed to, I didn't do any anesthesia electives elsewhere, but I felt like when I was doing surgery at other places, a lot of the times that, wherever hospital you are, that's kind of their little community. And then you go to a different hospital and it's just different people. So I felt like here in Saskatoon, all the staff, no matter what hospital you're in, you belong to the same department. You have the same meetings, committees, and so that was really, really nice. And I think that that's probably the biggest reason why I think Saskatoon was really good. And I'm glad I switched to anesthesia. It was a good career. So
So, Dr. B, tell us why you think Saskatoon is a great place to train.
I'm sure you guys talked about a lot already on many of the things, but maybe I'll just touch on two things. So one is I feel that it's a really good place to train because of the exist. I think the fact that like we as a group exist is one of the biggest reasons why our program is so unique. I feel like there's a lot of other programs who are maybe a little bit more well-known, but the more well-known programs in bigger cities probably have more hierarchy. And you kind of have to wait until you get to a certain experience level before you're entrusted with duties that you may or may not be paid for. And you're kind of expected just to do those duties because someone else tell you to do them. Because in order for you to climb up on the next run, you have to do those things for someone else. In Saskatoon, well, the fact that we're all here, you guys are here, different residency training levels. This is, there's very little hierarchy here. So what that means is we respect residents from first year residency training level. We treat you like you're going to someday become one of our colleagues, but you're already in the family. So there's no point waiting for you until you are trained before you can do tasks. And I feel like cool projects like this is exactly one of the reasons why people should come to Saskatchewan, where you get to basically exercise your full autonomy and creativity and do the things that you guys want to do, as opposed to staff always coming to you and say, why don't you come and do this for me? Why don't you come do this for the department? This is more, what do you want to do? What do you want to do for the department, right? And we'll help you make that happen. The second thing is also like our group, but not so much the creation of it, but like the purpose of it. So whereas, like our Saskatchewan is not really at like a major forefront for research if you compare it to places like Toronto. But I would say in terms of probably raw community engagement and putting that priority on distinguishing what anesthesiologists do and why anesthesiologists are important from a social media and traditional outreach sense, without a doubt, because I speak to, our department head who is involved on the national level, I would say our department is at the forefront. And going forward, as more and more people, evident by the fact that, even CAS now is creating these kind of community outreach programs, we will 100% be in front of like every other department. Because inevitably, what's going to happen is, the discipline of anesthesia is, for a long time, we've existed and we've practiced not really well known to other people. And the general community typically does not have a really good sense of what we do. But if we go out there and engage the community and let them know this is why our discipline is important, this is why we're proud of what we do, this is why we offer a very essential service at the hospital and outside, it'll not just promote ourselves, but it'll make us stand out as leaders in the medical community as well. So that should be another reason I know, there's a lot of things you can be on your own radar as you're an applicant, whether it's environment, whether it's research, whether it's academics. But I think community engagement is something that has not been on anesthesiologists' radar for a long time, and it should be. And it definitely will be. So if you come to Saskatoon, we're already doing it, as evident by everybody sitting here today. So
yeah, because everybody that's involved today in the podcast is a part of the Community Engagement Committee, which involves all kinds of things like the fruition of this podcast. And then Seb and I have gone to our old high school. Obviously, Seb graduated way later than I did in time.
we got to see the wall you painted.
Yes, that's right. The wall that I painted that's still there. That was so funny. I got to chat with high school students and present to them and do fun skills with them, like ultrasound with the butterfly that we already chatted about. So there's lots of cool opportunities. I know someone asked me once, what was the thing that surprised you most about your program? And the thing that I said to them was that I had all these crazy ideas of things I wanted to do. Like I wanted to create this infographics website or do this podcast or do this other thing. And people were so supportive. Which I don't really know if that would have happened in other places. I can't say whether or not it would have, but it just all happened here. And I had staff that was very, very supportive of making those dreams happen. So that's really cool.
I think it's very hard. I'm glad you feel that way because I feel like as a program, we are young and you guys have a young program director. You guys have all these things. Everybody here cares about you guys, but we don't want you guys to feel like you are a cog in someone else's wheel.
Right.
And we need you to make the machine turn. We want you to feel like you can be an architect to design whatever you want to design, And that's way more empowering. Nobody wants to get out of bed and work for someone else. But
yeah, totally.
If you're I'm doing this for me, it's way more empowering.
I do think that really stands out about the program. Anything we've had interest in, we've been wildly supported to be able to do.
Yeah. Even people who've recently graduated, if you look at, people like Dr. Duncan Bowles and Dr. Andrew Peeling, who just came back, Dr. Chu, the program director, he's already gone to them and said, how can you help us in your own, what are your thoughts on improving some of these aspects of medical education for the residents?
Yeah.
You're just recently graduated from this program. You've now come back as staff. And they're very gung-ho with helping revamp some of the things so that it's way more efficient, way higher yield for the future generations. And I think, if you go to a bigger place in a much bigger city that's academically driven and you're 1 year out from practice and you go to the program director and say hey, I have a way of revamping the whole delivery of this aspect of this, medical education for residents. They'll think you're crazy, You have to
not be well received.
Truly, you have to get in line, wait your turn, come talk to me in a decade, right? That's not the case here.
Yeah.
So it's very unique, and it's hard to appreciate that until you're at the other end and you're looking back, or if you've gone to another bigger center and you go, wow, I've done electives in anesthesia in other places, and I come back and I can't believe how supportive the program was of me, even when I was a resident. It was hard to appreciate at certain times. But when you go to other places, it's almost like when you're a kid and you go eat at your friend's house and then you come back and you're like, it's very eye-opening. You're like,
Mom, you're so good at making food.
yeah, certain things you used to complain about. You're like, okay.
Eating vegetables isn't that bad, actually.
Yeah.
It could be a lot worse.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Awesome. Thank you. That's so great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. The next thing that I thought we could talk about was learning opportunities that also exist in Regina, because we have many staff anesthesiologists who have done fellowships that work there, as well as people who have completed their residency in Saskatoon and then worked in Regina now. So the great thing about going to Regina is that accommodations are provided for you, and there's pet-friendly and family-friendly situations, which is great, because when I go to Regina, I bring my dog. And it makes for a better wellness experience for me, because I like to walk my dog every day. So there's 3 different sites that you can go to in Regina. The first is Regina General Hospital. So that's their major trauma center as well. And they do cardiac anesthesia there, vascular, thoracic, neuro, neonatal, and peds, general surgery, ortho, gynae, ENT, urology, obstetrics. And then the ICU is there. There's the Pasqua Hospital as well that does general surgery, optho, plastics, urology, gynae, onc, OMF, and dental. So if I was to liken this to a certain situation, I would say Regina General Hospital is like RUH, and Pasqua is sort of more like a combo between City or St. Paul's. And then there's also a Regina Surgical Center there, which is very similar to our Prairie View Surgical Center in Saskatoon, where they do day surgery procedures, but lots of opportunities for regional blocks, which is good. And then there's opportunities to go to other rural centers as well. Do you want to tell us about those, Kim?
Yeah, so I think within our program right now, we're looking at expanding so that everybody has the opportunity to do a rural practice. And there's lots of locations within Saskatchewan where they have the FPAs, or the family doctors that have done a +1 year in anesthesia, that have worked for many, many years and have a breadth of experience and knowledge. And so that we would be able to go and I think as well have our accommodation funded and get an experience in a more rural setting where you get kind of whatever walks through the door and you have to manage at least initially.
Yeah, absolutely. And many of the FPAs that we could go spend time with have done their training here in Saskatoon. So they know a lot of the staff here and know how things are here. And I think it'd be a really good opportunity for us to go there and learn more from them and what their practice is like in a more rural setting.
And I think it's nice because you'd be the only resident there.
You'd be the only resident.
So you could get in on whatever cases you wanted to and get whatever experience.
Absolutely. And it's the same thing in Regina too. You're the only resident there. If they're doing a super cool case that isn't, say, I went there for my cardiac anesthesia rotation, but there was one day that they were doing this really cool neuro case. So I was like, oh, can I go there, spend the day there? Absolutely. Not a problem. So that's when you have less competition for learners, kind of like we were talking about before, then you get to have all the cool experiences.
Yeah. And I think in between first year and second year, we were asked if we would want to go to Regina for some of our just general anesthesia blocks.
Yep, absolutely. Or obstetrics anesthesia. And so if you wanted to have that experience, you can opt to do that. Yeah, as well, which is great. Cool. And many of these things are not mandatory. It's whatever works best for you and your family situation. But like I mentioned, there is accommodations for children and pets in Regina, which is awesome. Okay, well, that was really long because there's actually so much to talk about because it's a great program. And that's why you should come and consider coming to Saskatoon to do your anesthesiology training. I'd like to especially thank our guests today. So thank you, Kim, so much for coming.
Oh, thank
Very
you
much
for having
appreciated.
me. It's been a delight.
Yeah, it's been so good. And a special thanks to Seb and Anne-Marie as well for coming, and to Dr. B for popping in and giving a really good perspective from someone who has trained and stayed in Saskatoon.
And I want to say thank you so much to Alex for hosting this, and for Alan,
and to Alan,
who has managed all of the technology side of this for this podcast.
Yeah, this podcast is run by Alan. Awesome. Okay, thanks so much, guys. Until next time, we have lots of great episodes planned in the future, so stay tuned.
You've been listening to Airway Breathing Conversation, a podcast hosted and presented by the anesthesiology residents at the University of Saskatchewan. We are very thankful to our guests for taking the time to share their wisdom with us this episode. We are also thankful to the Department of Anesthesia at the University of Saskatchewan for all their support in helping us to get this podcast off the ground. Finally, we have a huge thank you to say to all of you, our listeners, without whom this podcast simply wouldn't exist. We are thrilled to share our educational journey through anesthesiology with dedicated listeners like you and appreciate your continued support. Don't forget to follow us and our associated USask Anesthesia accounts on social media. You can follow this podcast on Instagram at Airway Breathing Conversation, Twitter at Airway BC Podcast, or on any other major platform where podcasts are available. The video version of this podcast is available on the USask Department of Anesthesiology's YouTube channel at USask Anesthesia. You can also follow our department on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter at anesthesia_department_USask. Finally, be sure to follow the resident-run USask Anesthesia account on Instagram at USask Anesthesia. We'll see you next episode, but until then, stay calm, take a breath, and always remember your ABCs.